episode 88.
Dang, Dale
Double
Jr.
eight.
Dale Jr.
Ocho e Ocho.
Yeah,
Yeah. Who? Dale.
Dale Jr.
Really?
Yeah,
He was number 88. I thought that was like Michael Irving or something.
That was football. This is NASCAR.
Well, I mean, it's basically the same thing.
I bet we have a lot of Dale Jr. fans that listen to this show. Maybe not a lot, but
Big Dale. Big Dale. That was
Dale Sr., he was 3.
Dale Sr., yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm Mike, and I'm gathered here today to witness this thing called a podcast. I got Matt, obviously,
I'm here.
and Jill.
Hey, guys.
It's just us 3. So it ought to be, get your
3
bang for your
amigos.
buck.
Yeah.
You get your bang for your buck out of this thing, man. But before we get started, as always, got to ask everybody how they're doing. So, Matt, we'll go with you. How you been? What's been going on?
Man, we are. Everything's good. Wrapping up high school football tonight. Thank you, Lord. That's been a long season. We're glad that's wrapping up. So that's about it. Looking forward to that, and holidays coming up. So a little time off. So the grass is slowing down, and this is kind of my end of the year kind of thing. So I'm easing in on the brakes right now. So
Gotcha.
but
Okay.
nothing major.
All right, Jill, and you?
Yeah, everything's going well. Looks like tomorrow will be my last day at Bayou Dorcheat as I begin my new career at David Wade Correctional Center.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm getting excited, a little nervous, and what else been going on? I had an attempted murder here at Swan Lake.
The here on the plantation or whatever this is.
Just, the property, definitely not a plantation, but yeah, there was an incident. I came out, I heard my chicken screaming. I mean, it was like this. It was so loud. It was like 8 at night. And I ran outside.
I'm leaving.
Can
that
we
in.
save that?
I'm leaving
Yeah,
that
please
part.
do that. Please do that.
It was so loud. And it's this the sound they make when they, are laying eggs. But
They do that when they're laying eggs. Well, I bet they do. Now that
Yeah,
I think
I
about it,
mean-
that seems like
probably doesn't feel good. But
Yeah.
anyway, I came outside and there was a possum trying to eat one of my chickens. And I mean, there are feathers everywhere. The
Oh,
chickens
yeah.
were running around like crazy. And one of them, I mean, she, poor thing, she's missing quite a few feathers.
wow.
Yeah, no one was killed. Like I said, attempted murder. And
And the possum's perfectly fine. Huh? Got away, and
yes.
you can get out the old boomerang and go all Aussie on him.
Guess what crocodile doesn't eat
I didn't. I called my father. I was scared. I was scared of what I'd find in the coop. Like, a gnarled
was
chicken
making
or something.
the noises in there. You couldn't tell what it was.
I saw his face. His face was sticking out of, the exit way to the coop.
But
And
he was disguised as like Charlie Chaplin. He had the little mustache and the round hat, the derby hat on.
He said you're trying to
it's like
frame him.
actually when you see like a possum's head without his body,
had
it's
the scream
really
mask on.
disgusting.
Yeah, they are. They're gross.
I mean, and like I was shot, and his eyes were red because I was shining the light on him, and it was just gross.
they look like a big rat. Is what
I
they
seen
look
one
like.
in the break room one time.
Huh?
I seen a possum in the break room. We had one. I had to get it out, man. It's a long story, but I ended up getting the possum out.
Yeah, it was gross. He ran off, but like, I'm just glad like all my chickens made it.
Yeah.
So that one's just
Very close
hanging
call.
in there.
Well, she knows what to look for next time.
Well, I'll have my
Yeah.
doors shut earlier.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, you can lock them in there, huh?
Oh yeah.
And I
Oh,
think,
yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, I may be completely wrong. Possums are nocturnal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
They pretty much roll at night, like they're on the night crew.
Yeah. My dad was like, if had that been a raccoon, you wouldn't have any chickens.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah. Them things are gangsters, bro.
yeah.
Like the raccoons are the ones you don't want to play with.
And they
right.
seem pretty smart.
They're smart and mean.
You see them on TikTok, and they're like driving cars, wearing sunglasses, and all kind of crazy.
Yeah. No, they're tough, man. They're
Yeah,
tough.
raccoons are mean. I mean, I remember one time we set a trap when I was a child. We set a trap for a raccoon, and back then you could do that. When you was a kid, you go out in the woods and make a homemade trap, and grab somebody's sardines and use them as bait and whatever. And we set a trap for a raccoon. And we came back the next day, and the trap was just shredded. I mean, I guess he got caught in it and just ripped it to shreds.
Wow.
And I don't know what a bunch of 8-year-olds would have done with a raccoon had we got out there, and it would have
That's
been.
probably a good thing it escaped.
Yeah. I'm glad it did, but
Yeah.
they are
Tetanus shots for life. I don't know.
It's funny you said that. We went up to Lacey and I went out of town last weekend just to get away for a day and went up to the Gray Lake in Arkansas. We're driving around the state park, and there's deer and stuff everywhere. There's all kind of animals, but there was an armadillo on the side of the road. He was just out there chilling, and we pulled up, and I was like, "Look at that!" And she's like, "What is that?" And I was like, "It's an armadillo." And once she finally looked at it, she realized what it was. But she's like, "You think it'll run away?" I said, "I bet I could get out and pick that thing up." I was finna get out and let her video it. They won't run away. They don't care. I don't know if they don't have good eyesight or what, but he was just out there chilling right by the truck, and
the fear of nothing.
they don't fear nothing, man.
It's crazy. You ever notice how whenever one gets hit by a car or it's on the side of the road, roadkill, they're always on their back with their legs sticking straight up?
Yeah, we used to stick empty beer bottles in their hands.
No. Gross.
They're
Yeah.
perfectly round animals, and like they whenever they die, they're on their back with their hands sticking straight up. Like I don't get it. Yeah, I mean,
I'm not kidding. We used to ride the back roads like drinking beer when we were in high school and stop and just stick a beer bottle in their hands where they had died. It looked like they'd had a beer and fell over or something.
wow.
But, yeah. We didn't have a lot to do back then. So,
Yeah, well,
we didn't have cell phones.
I've seen people put get well soon balloons on them and take pictures.
Dude, stop.
Different stuff like that. And, not a lot of roadkill nowadays, man. It's kind of.
Did you not just drive down the road?
I didn't see it.
God, there's
it's just not as much as it was when I was a kid.
It's there's like a family is like just slaughtered up the road.
So this is my
gross.
brain. A lot of people spend their time wondering about smart stuff like solar system and global warming and all that. But I interviewed a dude one time at my company, and he had been on a roadkill crew for the highway department, and that's all that dude did.
No.
It was a 40-minute interview. I was like, tell me about some of the animals. Like I was making him relive his whole career.
Man, what's the grossest one you've ever seen?
I was like, what's the worst? And he's like, well, there's 3 of us. He's like, and we just drive up and we'll just sit on the shoulder of the road and look at it in the air conditioning. He's like, we do paper, rock, scissors to see who has to scoop it up. I'm like, that's awesome.
So when I was a kid, that was a normal thing. And the older I get, the less things maybe where I live, big metropolitan area. You just
that's
don't
probably
see
it.
as much roadkill.
But but those buzzards, that's why you can't shoot buzzards, because they'll come in and clean that stuff up, man. They'll destroy.
Oh yeah,
you
see a group of buzzards, whatever they're called. I don't know what they're called, but flying around in a circle.
Let's move on.
We could have a whole
I
episode.
mean, I don't know. Maybe the older I get, the less animals there are. Have you noticed the older we get, that the less and less you hear of things going missing in the Bermuda Triangle? I mean, when's the last time that happened?
Mm-hmm. True.
I mean, for real. I mean, you watch these reports or these shows. I was watching something on Paramount. It was about the Bermuda Triangle. And from 19 whatever to 19 whatever, this many planes. I mean, I would think after 1 year, I could just quit going. I mean, like, okay, let's just not go there.
Right.
And I think we figured it out now here in 2024. 'Cause, nobody, I don't even know anybody's friend of a parent that went missing in the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
But anyway, I have been working. Matter of fact, for the past Saturday, today we were recording on a Wednesday. I went to work Friday at 7 a.m. and left about 11 p.m. And I've done that every day since Friday. Today is Wednesday. I actually drove over here to go to the doctor today. And I think it was Monday. It never fails whenever I pull one of these really long ones. And at the end of the day, I'm just exhausted, right? I'm driving home, and the dang tire light, where you're losing pressure. So, I mean, when I get home, I got to open the garage. I got to take the tire off. I got to figure out where the nail is. I got to pull the nail out. I got to patch it. I got to air it up. I got to put the tire back on. And it just never fails. It just always happens, man. But that's my life in a nutshell. I just drive back and forth.
I've had a low tire light on my truck for about 6 years. So
My sensors just went out, so
Well, I
No,
think
I
life
have
was
low
a
tires.
hell of a lot easier when sensors didn't exist either. You know, it was a
Yeah.
surprise, we're headed to Six
Bang.
Flags and you're on the side of the road. You know, my parents on the 1977 LTD Ford LTD 2, big red thing, and I remember one time we were headed out to Dallas to go to Six Flags, and we may have been on the way back. You know, it was, I couldn't have been no more than 9, 10 years old. And I remember my dad going, man, that car up in front of us must be losing tire. It keeps hitting our windshield. And come to find out it was us losing tire. It was hitting our windshield. And it was, you know, that Texas heat, you know, was out there, no trees. And back then you had a jack that you had to set on the ground. It was a stick and you put it up under the bumper and you lifted it. That was just it was a dangerous time back then. It was, luckily, I can't believe we survived
We
it.
survived it.
And we survived it with only a drinking problem, you know.
Yeah.
Go figure. you know.
Yeah.
Now, what I want to talk about today is, and I heard someone in a meeting 2 or 3 weeks ago say they had been listening to a podcast that had the same subject matter, and I thought, hey, we've never talked about this, right? And you know, I guess have maybe some people, newcomers especially, who this is kind of reaching out to, thinks that the people that come into AA that have is what, 6 years, Matt? Mm-hmm. Jill's got 14 or 15. I've got 13. They think that, you know, we have our stuff just together, right? These folks are just well glued together, you know, and they got those 12 steps and their lives have to be in order. And, you know, every time they do something wrong, they're making amends. And every time something happens, they look inside and see, you know, they just think we got it all together. Some of them do. I did. And you know, and I'm not I'm not the most intelligent person in the world, but you know, I'm not at the bottom of the list either. And I actually walked around and looked and thought, hey, you know, a lot of these people have their stuff together. One of the biggest mistakes I ever made when I walked in the rooms, actually. And I want to talk about what do you do if you get overwhelmed? You know, think about it. So I get overwhelmed. You know, I'll be honest with you, I get overwhelmed whenever there's also some subcategories in there, I guess you could call it, because if you're a people pleaser, then you could get overwhelmed just trying to make sure everybody else is perfectly happy. Mm-hmm. If you're a procrastinator, you know, you could get overwhelmed because all of a sudden everything's due. If you're a worrywart, I guess would be a good one, you know. You get overwhelmed if there's too much stuff going on and you don't know if you can control it or not.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of ways to get overwhelmed, but I do still get overwhelmed. You know, I'm one of those people that, like, if I have tasks, whatever they are, let's just say I need to go get a new tire and then I have to buy a microchip for my camera, or I got to get a book for somebody. I like to get it all done, right? So I'm one of those people that likes to hurry up and wait because there's really nothing to do once I have completed all these tasks. I'm not a napper. I don't go fishing by myself much. I usually have to have my son. So any of the activities, a lot of times I get overwhelmed. I complete everything I possibly can, and then I have absolutely nothing to do and wonder why I got overwhelmed. Does that make any sense at all?
Absolutely.
So, you know, do you get overwhelmed, Matt?
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, with 6 years, it's been this ebb and flow of overwhelming. Like, it'll be in this pattern of a couple of years of, well, the first few years was getting sober and then almost immediately going through the divorce process, separation and all that. It was like everything in the world. It's like my hair's on fire, even though I don't have hair, you know, any hair on my head. It was just constant. It seemed like it was constant. I call them hand grenades. It's like you're going along and then boom, a hand grenade goes off. Oh, and it was just constant bombarding with that. And, you know, and I'm not a write things down. I'm not a detailed guy. Like, I'm just kind of always have flown by the seat of my pants. My sponsor, on the other hand, is not that way. We make lists. We write things down. Where that came into play was, number one, doing a few exercises like that for me. But the serenity prayer is where that all goes back to. And I have to evaluate things, especially in overwhelming times, and go, am I doing what I'm supposed to do? Is this something I have no control over? And evaluate the situation. And at the end of the day, if I've evaluated it the right way and I go, okay, I've done the part I can do, this part's out of my control, whether it's crazy or not, I can't do nothing about it, you know. Or if it's something I need to change and I change, or when I do that, for the most part, I can keep inner calm for the most part because I know I'm headed in the right direction. This is going to clear up eventually, and I just have to keep doing that. You know, we went through earlier this year with the tornado dropping on the house, all that stuff going on. It was crazy. It was crazy.
You definitely had a lot of change.
Oh, man.
On.
During a move.
During a move,
Right.
combining families, blended family type thing. It was, crazy. And
that in itself, just changing your normal everyday routine and having additional people added to your normal everyday routine can be overwhelming. I
Yeah,
would imagine.
absolutely.
yeah, and but that was kind of the second part of where it's gotten, it got just the adjustment of everything, that was but we did very well with that and we handled it very well. And it was a lot of, what can we do today? What can we do this afternoon? That's all we can do. Literally living one day at a time. And is it stressful? Yes, but it's not a give up, overwhelm. I'm done with it. Throw my hands up and leave. We're working on it. It'll get there, and just having a little bit of faith and, and so that's been my experience with it, trying not to get, and not to say that I can't get. That is funny though, that you talk about, like, we all look at people when we come in, we're like, man, all these people got their shit together.
Oh, yeah. I put so many people on pedestals.
Yeah, and because we judge their outsides, and then when you meet them and they go, oh yeah, and they start telling you, you're like, oh wait, oh yeah,
They're
I got
a human.
you. Yeah,
What?
they're a human damn being, Yeah, okay.
Well, and I also think it's important to remember that we are overwhelmed. We're in a very good spot compared to where we were when we came in the room.
Yeah.
That's for
Because
sure.
there has been times where I've been overwhelmed, frustrated, pissed off, wanted to just go off on somebody or say something that I knew I was going to regret. And then I just had to pause for a split second and go, I have the most wonderful life in the world, dude.
Yeah.
Why in the hell would I even be this? Just get, take Rule 62, bro. Don't take yourself too serious.
Yep.
you know?
Absolutely.
And I mean, I remember one time I was sitting at a desk. I had, I don't know, 20 things to do. I had a couple of deadlines that were within the next few minutes, and the phones were ringing, and people kept coming in, and people kept saying and asking, and what about this? And then I'm trying to work on something, and I remember it's like I was to a breaking point, and somebody came in, and I told them, y'all need to just turn around for a minute, go out and shut the door. I got to think about something for a second. And they did. So I was thinking to myself, hey, I prayed for this. And that was, one of those things where I had to just calm down and, realize there's a lot more good here than there is bad, if there's even any bad.
Right.
And I think a lot of that, even being overwhelmed, can kind of go back to fear.
Yeah.
And the fear of losing something or not getting something or, getting in trouble or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And then there's the overwhelmed of you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. I heard somebody say one time, I don't know who it was, so that it ain't like I'm making that hurt somebody, but they said that, stress was whenever you aren't doing something you're supposed to do or you're doing something you're not supposed to do.
Okay.
That's real stress. And I heard that, and it kind of resonated in me because at the time I was doing a lot of stuff I wasn't supposed to do. I was stressed, I felt
Yeah.
stressed. We all get, do you get overwhelmed
Absolutely.
a lot?
Not as much anymore. No,
Yeah,
I don't, because
Frequent naps help that, don't they?
I try to avoid it as much as possible.
Like wake up.
Well, my whole entire life until I got, into, my sobriety, I was a huge procrastinator. I mean, huge. And what I would do was just say, screw it. I'm just not, I just avoided, and caused way bigger problems than it ever was. And I just avoided all responsibilities. And so things piled up and piled up and piled up. And then what I've realized is alcoholics and addicts, we have to be very careful because we have that all or nothing thinking. And when we get overwhelmed, a lot of us tend to run and just ignore whatever's going on. And I can't do that anymore. Early recovery was really challenging in that part because I had ignored 20 something years of stuff. I had creditors. Oh my God. I mean, just everything that I didn't do. It was like I had so much to do when I got sober. And I remember I had to make that list with my sponsor. And that was 2 legal size pages full of stuff that I'd been avoiding and that I had to face. And just making that list was overwhelming. And it, to me, looking at that and saying, I will never complete this, which is that kind of thinking, that would set me up for failure. And I wanted to just go, nope. And she goes, we're going to knock these things out. And it started with a to-do list and, prioritizing that list and doing the little things first, knock them out, which was after, of course, taking care of the things that were the most important. Like I needed car insurance because I decided it wasn't important to pay that.
Good call.
Right. And those kind of things. And, calling, getting my credit report and start knocking off the small things. And it was just so much. But I have a problem with the 3 Ps. And then you're like, wait, what's that?
Pizza, pretzels, and pickles.
Pizza, yes. Big problem. But no, I'm just kidding.
A lot of good food starts with a P.
Yeah.
Pasta,
Potatoes.
Pasta, potatoes.
Possum.
That's only here at the ranch.
So anyway,
Sorry, couldn't help it.
I like that. First it was a plantation, which now it's the ranch. I'll go with that.
Hell, I don't know the difference.
My dad would always say that to me, and he's like, William, those are the 3 Ps. You got the 3 Ps. And he said, that's piss poor planning.
Yeah, well.
And so that's something I have to do now. Am I the best at it? I'm still not, but I'm really big on to-do lists. I have to keep a calendar. I try to do this the best I can because I literally will get fired from a doctor because I miss appointments. That will overwhelm me. And someone that has, ADHD is hard to remember stuff. I forget stuff. That overwhelms me. I have to stay on top of it. It's the little things because it's no longer the big things anymore. And what happens with the little things, they pile up. And then all of a sudden you have a big thing of little things.
A bit, yeah. The combination of the little things becomes a big thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's things that I've been overwhelmed with. There's feelings that I've been overwhelmed with, situations, there's times in my life, periodically where I'm overwhelmed with negative emotions.
Yeah.
A breakup or something like that, a life stressor happens and I get overwhelmed with that. And pretty much my solution is the same with everything. Get your ass to a meeting.
Yeah.
Call your sponsor, talk about it, write about it, do something, pray about it. And that's pretty much, what I do. I got overwhelmed with anger yesterday. I got angry to where I had to leave my office and go in my car and cry.
Wow. You got overwhelmed at work.
Yes. Yeah. And there's so many things that overwhelm me. A lot of sensory things that overwhelm me too. But yeah, I went in my car and I cried and I just said a prayer because I knew my ego and my pride were getting the best of me in that moment.
Oh, yeah.
Because I started thinking something was unfair.
Yeah, you became the victim.
Very quick.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is not you. Even though what? This is not how you act. And so I was able to clean that up pretty quickly. There's just, like I said, I have major sensory issues. And if it's too windy, guess what? I get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can see that.
I don't like wind. There's certain sensations, loud noises, loud lights, restaurants, loud noise. Yeah. And there's some people probably listening that are going, yeah, me too. I'm
that's crazy.
Highly
not
sensitive.
Crazy as in you're crazy. I'm saying that's interesting.
Thanks, Matt.
No, I mean, I've never.
Bet you'd freak out at disco, man.
Yeah, I was thinking.
All of the above.
Thank God disco's no longer around.
Oh, no.
Strobe
And it's
light.
happened to me in department stores. And I
Wow.
know that sounds,
No. I get it.
weird.
There ain't very many people that in and outside of AA that I have met that don't get some form of overwhelm trying to shop at Christmas time in a major store.
Well, I don't like shopping because of that. It is overwhelming to me, the amount of people. I was in Target one time and I was trying to scooch around some things, and a lady bumped into me, and I felt like, and I had to leave Target like immediately. It happened to me in Dillard's not too long ago, and I
There was
was
that
just,
many people in Dillard's?
huh?
There was a lot of people in Dillard's?
No, that was Target. And Dillard's, it's called a sensory overload.
Yeah.
And I get overwhelmed by my senses, and I have to leave.
I can do it with like kids hollering in a car. That's what I'm comparing it to. Is like enough's enough. I'm
Yeah.
gonna stop and just walk down the interstate by myself.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah, I ain't doing that. They're walking down the interstate.
yeah.
What
Well,
I'm talking about is common with people with ADHD, autism. They can only
Yeah.
handle so much external stimuli
Yeah.
that they start to shut down. Not a lot of people talk about that.
Was you
but,
born with that?
I don't know. It's just always kind of, been
but like when
that.
I'm mentally tired, I came home yesterday and just walked in the door. Lacey was going with the boys to go get a pizza, and she goes, "You want to ride?" And I went, "Nope, I'm going to sit in my chair and just stare at the ceiling for about 30 minutes." And she goes, "All right." And she texts me, "Hope you're enjoying staring at the ceiling." I was like, "I am. I just need to sit here for a minute." It
yeah.
was nothing bad going on. It's just like I needed to reboot the noise and the action going on.
I don't know how close attention the listeners are paying to us, right? I hope they're paying attention, but what I hear from, I heard some really good solutions from you guys. Number one, Matt, what you just mentioned is kind of like a simple form of meditation. I just want to sit there and stare at the ceiling.
Yeah.
I just want to sit in silence and quiet my brain. You mentioned earlier the serenity prayer, and God grant me the serenity to accept what I cannot change. Right here, what this is, can I change it? And then, the courage to change me, because the only thing I can, and then the wisdom to know the difference in the two.
Absolutely.
And then Jill talked about a to-do list. Wow, what a to-do list. Just have a to-do list and do things one at a time, because collectively it looks like a whole bunch of stuff. But if you do a to-do list, I got one thing to do right now. I don't have to worry about the other 30.
Yep.
And then I do this.
And I get so much satisfaction from erasing something, deleting something from
So
that
do
list.
I
It's
thought
like,
it was just, it's like mowing grass.
It
That
is.
strip.
it feels so good.
And like,
Which,
do
by
y'all,
the way, for the listeners, that's all I will mow is that strip. Just for the stimulation, and then I'm out of there. Somebody's cutting that stuff for me.
but you get the I get that overwhelming thing too. And like I have sponsees, and they like Jill's talking about, they get out and they're credit shot, this is shot, that all this big ball of mess, and they go, "I'm panicked. Now I'm sober and I want to get my life together." And I go, one thing at a time. Let's work on staying sober, and let's make a list, and then we're going to break that stuff off the list, credit, and then we're going to break it down. And when they and they're like, "Well, that's going to take forever," and I was like, "Yeah, but if you can cross a couple of those off that list as you go, and you can pull it out and see it, you're going to start feeling better.
Yeah.
Like you're going to realize you're working on it.
Well, it brings back the memory of earlier sobriety when someone would always ask, "How do you eat an elephant?"
One bite at a time.
And yes,
I was like, what?
no, that's a question we heard at the Koala Club a lot in early sobriety, and basically it just means it looks like a lot, but you can eat it one bite at a time.
Okay.
Because that's all you can do.
My first thought was, barbecue or roasted, but then they started talking and explaining themselves, and I realized, one bite at a time. I never even thought about eating an elephant up until then. So
I hadn't either until now.
well,
still thinking
that really is
Possum recipes, but
I remember one time I had a lot going on, and I was basically estranged from the kids, and it was about the time to start getting Wyatt a car. There's steps into getting him a car and all these other things to do. And I remember me and him sitting down at the Koala Club before a step study one day, and I said, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this in steps. We're going to have, this is what we need to do now. Like today we can do this. Tomorrow we're going to do this, and then if that's done, we'll move on to this." And for me, I had to do that to break it down in order so that I didn't have all this stuff that I had going through my head. We just do these few things. And of course, he said the same thing. Matt person said that's going to take forever, you know.
Yeah.
I think within 7 days the kid had a car.
Yeah.
Well, I think that another thing is important is to have good problem solving skills, and not a lot of people, you know, use these because a lot of us, you know, alcoholics, we just, like you said, we're spontaneous, we fly by the seat of our pants, and it's caused me to like slow down, you know, set goals, come up with ideas, brainstorm with ways that I can, you know, make this happen, look at my pros and cons, try it out. That doesn't work, try it out again, but using a different idea.
So I had a weird, this is weird. We're talking about this, but I don't want to give away details on it of the other person involved, but it was a banking issue. Let's put it that way, that had gotten, it was becoming a problem. And so I called today to talk to the bank about it, and ended up, you know, it's one of those things in sobriety, and we dread oh my God, this is going to be the worst thing ever, you know, and like we have that preconceived, this isn't going to go very well. By the time I got off the phone with the dude, he couldn't have been nicer. We talked, he gave me 4 different options that we could do on this thing that I'm trying to do. And then instead of them being the way I thought they would be and be a bank and like, you know, we're after you or whatever the case may be, he's like, man, if you do these two, yo, we'll just re-loan this person. So you can clear that up, and then we'll just re-loan them to do whatever they need to do. And I was like, dude, you solved my problem. And he's like, yeah, we're not trying. And I just was like, it was cool to share that with the person. And I went, dude, people, if you put out the effort in good faith and you're trying to take care of stuff, people will, you know, work with you. And it's just kind of cool to go through that. I wouldn't have done that drinking. I promise. I'd have been 12 states over with a, you know.
You bring up a perfectly a regular good solution again that a lot of people don't look at, and that is consulting someone that actually knows what they're talking about.
Support system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk like you get overwhelmed with all this stuff, and in your head, like, let's just take something that seems extremely difficult, right? Like, I don't know, starting a business, right? But it just seems, you know, a lot of people don't do it because the fear of starting. It just sounds like a lot to do, right? And so you go talk to somebody who actually did it, and bam, there you go.
Yeah.
You need to go do this first.
Yeah, talk to a professional.
The first thing, and a lot of times they'll ask you, and you don't have to act like you know what you're talking about, by the way, you know.
Hey, I mean, that guy today, and this wasn't something that I was dealing with personally, but it was somebody, one of us, and they were trying to get, and it was just a mess. And I was like, why don't we talk to him, you know? And so I just said, let me do it.
That's
so
awesome.
I called them.
Yeah.
And they couldn't have been more nice, and it was, we were laughing by the end of it, and you know, talking about some other things. But also I called, I'm not no banker, I don't know anything about it, and I went, hey man, what can I do here? That's all I knew to ask. I was like, where are we at? What can I do? And he said, here's the 4 things we can do, and none of them were bad. And I was like, okay, fair enough, that's easy enough.
And they probably deal with it every day.
Yeah. And he's like, it's no big deal, we just need to know what's going on and this, that, and the other. And I said, got you. No
right.
problem.
A little communication, a little negotiation, and bam, you know, problem solved.
But I think we have such, as a group, and I'm speaking for me, we have such, like, I do know what you're saying about the ADD, ADHD of, I'm just going to ignore it. And you know what I mean? And like, I had that kind of thing going on too. It was like, well, it'll just go away. No, it's not going to go away.
Nope.
It will not go away. Guaranteed. When we're able to get a few of those things done, and we see the result and go, oh, well, that wasn't the end of the world. You know,
that bad.
And I called the friend of mine. I called him after the thing or before, and he goes, well, I don't know what's going to happen. I said, here's what's going to happen. You're going to go home tonight and lay down in your bed, and tomorrow the sun's going to come up, and you're not going to jail. There's nothing that dire. You're not going to the hospital. It's a business deal. That's all it is. So quit dreading this. You're making this worse than it is, you know? So
what I think is important, you know, about what we've talked about, and especially for newcomers, is of course that feeling of being overwhelmed. You know, there's a stressor that leads to stress, and we kind of want to do this screw it and run kind of deal. And, you know, what's important is to have a person figure that out for you and with you.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people want to think they can tackle it themselves in early recovery, and I can take care of this, but our brain isn't working exactly the way we want to. And have, you know, like I said, I went through everything with my sponsor because what I thought was important maybe just wasn't. And I know as far as my financial stuff, I would have said, nope, there's no way I'll ever pay that off.
Or stay out of my business kind of thing. You know,
well, yeah,
I
I mean,
want people
well-
seeing my finances.
Right. And our ego and pride will tell us all kinds of things that aren't true, or even like our ways of thinking, our cognitive distortions about things.
Yeah, but
And
see, my way of thinking is like if I was having financial problems, I'm just going to go buy a bunch of lottery tickets and let's see what happens.
well, yeah, some people would be like, you know what, all or nothing, going
not-
to the casino.
Not just one. I'm buying a whole bunch because it's all or nothing. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
If the Powerball is $3 billion, I'm buying 3 billion lottery tickets. I'm gonna hit it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's that kind of like delusional thinking that we used to think,
Yeah.
you know, and so like I said, I think it's important that this is something you involve someone else in that is actually gone through the process and can give you pointers and suggestions, rather than leaving it up to your own free will when you haven't really.
I talk on here about my circle, and a lot of it's sobriety. You guys are in that circle, and it's people that that do different things. They have different jobs, they do whatever, but a lot of it is sobriety, but some of it's not. Some of it's just business people. And there's one that I do a lot of work for. And the other day we were riding around on a 4-wheeler, and I said, how do I do this, this, and this? And it was interesting to hear somebody who's very successful and done it. And he said, well, you can do it this way. You can do it that way. You know, you need to figure out this, this, and this. These are the things that you need to clean up. And it was so interesting just talking about business with him. And I probably would never have done that in the past. I'd have thought, hey, I know everything. You know, I know
for sure.
everything. But I like that today. I like that my son was going to Iraq when he got out of basic training a few years ago. He gets out of basic training, does a little bit at Fort Polk, and they're going to send him to Iraq, and he's an infantry guy, you know, 19 years old. And I'm like panicking, and I'm like, they're sending him over to Iraq, you know, and all that. Well, I call my sponsor. He's an Army guy too. And I said, what's going on? He's going to be over there for 9 months. And Bobby said, he's a infantry, right? And I said, yeah. He said, here's what he's going to do. He's going to guard some stuff for 8 hours a day. They're going to make him stand in a spot and guard a fence.
Oh.
And he said, then when he gets off, he's going to go back to the barracks and hang out and watch TV. And he's going to come back and he's going to guard that fence again. And he said, there's nothing going on in Iraq. He's going to be bored to death. And sure enough, he came home after 9 months. I said, what'd you do? He goes, it was boring. I was
Okay,
like,
yeah.
I mean, we're expecting nuclear war in our brain, you know. It's just nice to have those people that can kind of go, hey, this is what's going on, you know.
I love that about AA. I
Sure.
do. And I think that's also, you know, an important part of the fellowship is having a support system and knowing that we don't have to do this alone.
Man, my number one suggestion would be to somebody who is feeling overwhelmed. Man, I would even say if you're in, you know, long-term sobriety,
Yeah.
is go to a meeting every single day. Get there a little bit early, talk to a couple people, stay there a little late, talk to a couple people. Don't even have to be about that. My point is, I remember being completely overwhelmed and doing just that. And that 1 hour and 20 or 30 minutes that I spent thinking about something other than what was going on in my head calmed me down enough
It's a
to where
reboot, yeah.
it's a reboot. You know, I was allowed to walk away from it long enough to come back with a kind of a fresh look at it.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's kind of like at work. You know, I talked earlier where I get up some mornings and I go in at, I don't know, 7 and I leave at 10 o'clock at night. And you know, and that's great. But if I'm not correcting whatever is causing me to be overwhelmed, sometimes I got to take a step back so that I can look at it from a whole different angle. And then when I look at it from a whole different angle, most of the time, not all and not none, but most of the time, I get a clear picture on what really needs to happen and what doesn't.
Yeah.
What is important and what is not important. But at that one particular time, I can't get, my head just won't process things the right way.
I love that when you do take a break and you let it go, then all of a sudden it comes to you and you're like, okay.
Maybe I'm wrong, but in the big book, we talk about the pause. We talk about prayer and thinking about our day. And, when we lay down at night, we think about what we did that day. And a lot of the times that takes it to where we can look at it in a different perspective, and we can let our higher power, whatever that be, right? We can let that be with us if we're not willing to let up all control, which don't usually work out too well. But if we're willing to let up all control, the easiest way to do is step back from it. It's not like it's a house burning down or a possum getting in the chicken coop. It's not anything that has to happen this second. And we got every one of us has a certain amount of time on this planet. Hate to use it all, just worrying.
And too, I mean, I know y'all probably have, but I've learned that I'm not effective without taking those breaks. And whether it be go home and take a nap, whether it's I'm going to sit in my chair for 30 minutes after I get out of the shower and just not look at a phone, a TV, just sit there quiet, whatever it might be. Go fishing I'm so blessed where I live, and I can go right around the corner and just walk down a pond bank if I want to. And I do that sometimes, just right at the end of the day for 15 minutes. Don't carry a phone with me, and just it's just kind of a little stop and
some good old self-care.
Sure. And it's took me a long time to realize that. And I thought, I don't mind, I have responsibilities to people and I have all those things, but at the same time, I'm not any good to the people I'm responsible for.
Right.
Burn out.
Purposely sometimes, like whenever I've had a long day and a lot's gone on, and I on the way home, I feel like I haven't got anything done, and man, that's just going to add to tomorrow. A lot of times when I do get home, and granted it's late, but when I do get home, I'll take a bath, and after I take a bath, I'll purposely leave my phones in the bathroom. I'll grab my laptop, go sit on the couch, and watch Norm Macdonald videos. I'll watch some form of humor and laugh and just get it just to where it's not, and there are those nights where I get home and the phone calls that still don't stop. The texts still don't stop. And a lot of times after I watch my Norm Macdonald videos or whatever it is, I'll go back in there and I'll grab my phones and put them by the bed to charge, and I'll have missed 3 or 4 calls and 15 text messages or whatever it is. But for that moment, I had to get away. I just had to get out of it. And I don't know how any of y'all are, but there are times where me and my son go fishing, one of the best things in the world I love to do, but the whole time we're out there, something's going on. It's just like life doesn't stop just because Mike went fishing. Well, it doesn't stop because Mike went fishing, because Mike didn't let it.
Yeah.
I should be leaving those phones in the car.
We left. So Lacey and we were counting the other day, a weekend without a kid at our house. It had been like 8 months since we'd not had at least 1 or 2 kids at our house. Last weekend was the first weekend in 8 months since the tornado, everything, that we had no kids. And I went, we're gone. And she said, where? And I said, not here. That's all I know. It ain't going to be here. And we drove up into Arkansas, and she's like, where are we going? I said, I ain't sure yet.
Find some kids.
Yeah, no, it was not.
I can't handle it without kids.
No, I can. I promise. I'm good at it. I can get relaxed quick, but
you end up in one of them neighborhoods like on Children of the Corn. Find a whole bunch of kids named Malachi.
Man, look, it. But we did. We got out. We ended up going to a state park up there. Man, deer walking around, and we just hung out. We fished a little bit, walked around. And it was great. Spent the night in Hot Springs, came back, and
Lake DeGray's a pretty place.
Yeah, it is. It's beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful.
I used to go up there in the early 2000s, late 90s. Me and my ex-father-in-law would take our boats. We would each pull our boat up there and we'd go to Lake DeGray. I don't know if I've ever caught anything on it, but it's more of a recreational.
Man,
situation.
We went out there fishing, and I don't have a picture of it because I didn't carry my phone, but I'm man enough to admit it. We had one bite. I did. It was the small. I don't know. I didn't know that they made bass this small. Like he looked like a shiner, but I did catch him and he bit. So that was the only one I caught. But it was fun. It was beautiful. So
I think that the feeling of overwhelm, comes from stress, and it is a normal feeling. And I think that's important that everybody knows that everybody will get overwhelmed at some point in their life. And it's all about what do we do with it? How do we work through it? And how do we manage it, our stress level, so we don't get to that point? And it is, learning the skills that we've all talked about, because we have mentioned a lot of them as far as like what you do, but overwhelm can lead to a lot of different things if it goes unmanaged and you're not doing things to, improve your situation. Because a lot of people choose to be stuck in the problem and not the solution. And it may get to the point of severe anxiety, depression,
Giving up on AA.
Well, and isolation, relapse, and all of that. And it's important to note that if you find yourself in these situations, there is help, and you can seek professional help. And probably a lot of us have at some point or another. I mean, basically, that's what treatment was for me. I was overwhelmed with a substance use disorder. Everything at that point in my life was overwhelming, and that sometimes we have to take breaks from our life to get everything, like you said, reboot, refocus, get everything straight again so we can go back out and do it right the next time. Because there is help. And there's people that are willing to talk to you in the rooms. And, there are people, it's just like, if you keep that in your head, it'll drive you mad. Mm-hmm. It'll drive you mad. It will start to affect you physically to where you're not sleeping, you're not eating. It'll start affecting you emotionally, mentally, all of that, and spiritually.
So Ben, that's been on this show several times, and I were talking about this the other week ago, and we saw a comedian we like, Joey Diaz. I don't know if Mike, if you know
I don't
who
think
that,
I have.
Yeah, you've probably seen him. You just don't know it's him. Anyway, he said he didn't like normal people. He said, I don't. If you got to have something going on weird in order for us to be friends, and I'm not going to get into it because it was filthy what he said, but me and Ben were talking about that, and I was like, isn't that so funny about AA is like, it is a place for everybody has weird stuff, but there's people that choose to go, well, I got this weird thing going on. And then we love everybody to death. That's my kind of people. You can get out there and get isolated in the world, and people go, well, I'm perfect. We're perfectly normal. What's wrong with you? And I just kind of like, Chris C calls them weirdos. I like hanging around my weirdos,
If let's just say you were in AA and you've been there for 2 weeks, right? First time ever, never, and you see all these people and you hear that guy in the corner that's got 35 years or 40 years, right? Mm-hmm. And he has all this wisdom and he talks, and you think, man, I'm never going to be like that. And
I remember that.
And then after the meeting, people swarm these guys, right? And they're all talking. If you walked up there and got in that conversation and said, hey, I feel overwhelmed, that person is going to say, hey guys, I'm going to visit with him for a minute. And then he's going to pull you to the side and he's going to go, hey bud, tell me what's going on with you. He's going to stop what he's doing, and he's going to spend his time talking to you about whatever it is you've got on his mind. And he's probably been there. He's probably heard whatever it is you got going. You sit in these rooms long enough and, you deal with everything: incarceration, death, hospitalization, relapse, all of it. And I guarantee you, he does not think he is that important.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He will spend that quality time with anybody. And in his mind, this guy may or may not stay forever. He may leave tomorrow, may never see him, but he's going to take his time to make sure, and the ladies too, all of them do that same exact thing. It's like, hey, come on, let's go talk about this.
You have to speak up. You have to advocate for yourself, or else it's just going to stay in there and probably multiply in your head until the point where I can't deal with this.
And
Bye.
it does. I mean, it really does.
And I've had guys grab me and go, man, I need to talk to you. And we go in there, and I've never experienced what they're talking about. And I just look at them and go, dude, that sucks. I don't know. I never dealt with it. But they're just trying to get it out to somebody else. And a lot of times I go, hold on, I do know a guy that dealt with that. And I'll go get somebody, or I'll call them and say, this guy wants to talk to you. Do you mind? They never do. It's always, yeah, man, absolutely. And I've had plenty of that stuff too,
I was driving home last night. It was late, and I was on one of the big roads, headed home, listening to I think I was listening to the radio. I wasn't even listening to a podcast, what I usually do. And I saw a name pop up calling me it was a guy that came to the club a couple of years ago. Haven't seen him. He had no idea I lived in Dallas, right? just out of the blue, and I answered the phone. I did. I answered the phone, talked to him for about 20 minutes. Good talking to him. He's doing good. He's an over-the-road truck driver, and, he comes and goes, and he had a place in here in Bossier, and he lives in Dallas. And, I talked to him for about 30 minutes, and at the end of it, he said he had called 3 people, and nobody would pick up. Of course, it's late. I get it. It's kind of late for especially the old-timers. But I talked to him forever, and the reason I answered the phone initially was because what if this guy's got something wrong? He needs to talk to somebody.
Absolutely.
It wasn't, hey, I hadn't heard from him in a while. Man, I want to hear what he's going. It was good to hear he's still doing good. That is good to make that connection. But my first thought is, what if he's not okay?
Yeah.
Let go ahead. Here I am, been at work all these hours, got all this stuff on my mind, and this call comes, and I spend 20 minutes talking to this guy, and after I got off the phone with him, I don't remember what I was thinking about. Whenever.
And that's the flip side of that. Are you talking about a guy's got a bunch of sobriety and everybody's up there talking to him and pulling him to the side? You don't, you go in and you feel like you're a burden or unloading on these people. And I didn't want to say stuff to people when I came in there, but you're helping them a lot of times as much as they're helping you, because that's what we do. So, don't be shy. Don't be shy.
He knows what to do, man. They will know something they're going to say, even if it's the time they spend talking to you, will help.
I don't know if Phil listens to this, but my first interaction with something like that was with Phil.
Mine too.
And I came in, and it was right before. It was 5 minutes before a meeting, so it wasn't like that much time to talk. But I'm telling Phil, and Phil goes, "Hey, you want to buy a boat?" And I'm like, "Oh, huh? Did you just hear what I said?" And he goes, "Look at this." And he pulls out his phone. He's got a picture. He goes, "Look how clean that boat is." I'm like, "Phil, did you hear what I said?" And he goes, I'm going to tell you the price in a minute. Keep looking at the pictures." And I'm like, "Are you listening to what I'm saying?" So the meeting starts. We sit down in the meeting, and he's texting me across the room. "What do you think?" "Only 35,000. I'm like, "Phil," I text him back, "I don't have any effing money. I'm not buying your boat." And he's like, "If you know anybody's looking, let me know." I'm like, "Thanks, Phil." What happened? I laughed. I didn't think about what was going on for a minute. And when I left, I went, "All right, it is what it is."
And then on top of that, you got a new boat.
Yeah, well, no, I didn't. Phil
caught a lot of fish out
He
of
was
that
working
boat.
hard on selling me that boat. So, but anyway.
Yeah, I remember I would go in there. We had this little group of guys that would sit in the back corner, and one of them was Woodrow, and one of them was Wayne, and you had Jerry, and you had several guys that would sit in this one corner, and they'd be there at 5 o'clock or 4:30 sometimes, an hour before the meeting start. And I had something on my mind. I don't remember what it was. And I came in there, and I sat down in the middle of them, and I was telling them this, that, and the other, and they were just laughing, just laughing, like, "Oh yeah, you definitely need to keep coming back, man," And then all of a sudden, one of them got real serious. "Are you thinking about drinking?" And I was like, "No, I'm not thinking about drinking. Look, this is this." And they're like, "If you ain't thinking about drinking, don't worry about all that. Shit, you got bigger fish to fry."
Yep.
And that made me think, hey, I got other stuff that I need to focus on other than whatever's overwhelming me, because I was told, come to a meeting every day, get you a sponsor, work the steps. They gave me a list. Do these things, and you will have a good chance at remaining sober for a long time. Everything else will fall in line.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then that is, and I get it. If you're, a single mom or even a married mom that takes care of the baby all the time, and I can see where it gets overwhelmed. My daughter gets overwhelmed, right? And when she does, I love it when she calls me, because we can sit there and talk for an hour. Spend an hour on the phone. May not come up with a single solution, but at the end of that hour, I can tell she feels better. Mm-hmm. And she's not an alcoholic, she's probably about as far from alcoholic as it can be. But there's so many things you can do. The to-do list. Go to a meeting every day. Talk to people before. Talk to people after. The serenity prayer. Break it down in your head. What does it mean to you and your situation right then and right there, right? And
I cut grass, so I'm it's almost like farming. We have a season. There's about 9 months that we're dark to dark, basically. And so the meetings get erratic for me during that time of year. It's hard to be on any kind of schedule. You deal with weather and all kind of other things. A lot of days, my sobriety consists of talking to somebody in the program for a few minutes, or listening to a podcast, or watching something on YouTube, something in my headphones. But that serenity prayer I have every day. And that thing to me has never, it is the solution basically. It's the calm for me, is to look at that and go, I can put this in one of three areas. And when I know where to put it, then it is what it is. Then I know what's happening. So,
And it's just three areas. Is it one of these three categories, right?
and I haven't found anything yet that's not in one of those three.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Not one.
People make their fourth category, but no, it's just these three categories.
Sometimes I've asked myself, like early on, and I went, am I just content to not accept a solution here? Am I just wanting to feel like I had to question?
Well, that's growth, just being able to question yourself.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm so used to the chaos and the whatever that word is, just the junk, disorganization of the past. I was kind of didn't know what to do when it started getting calm, but yeah, I mean, that's as simple as I can make it.
Well, and then I think the more that you do that, the more that you realize you can handle situations that used to baffle you.
And the same thing, I had a sponsee that's gone out several times, come back, gone out, come back. We're doing the 90-90, all that stuff. And he's on like day 7 of it or something. And he texts me, these meetings are boring. I don't feel like I need a 90 and 90, maybe a 30 and 30. That's what he's texting me. And he said, the last 2 meetings, I've gotten nothing out of those meetings. And I said, that's funny, because what you're getting is practicing doing something that you normally would not do. And I said, if you don't hear anything in that meeting, and I find it hard to believe you're not hearing something, you're getting into a healthy practice of, I go to a meeting every day, no matter what. And that's what that is. And it's no different with a serenity prayer. When I get in the practice of those 3 things, and I can do that quick now. It's like, hey, wait, I don't control that. Practice.
Out with the wisdom right there.
Practice, man.
Just look at
Gotta practice. So,
Yeah. Routine.
Well, guys, we've about run out of time, and there's no new listeners or none of that stuff in different countries. So I'll skip all that stuff and we'll forego it. I do want to apologize. Right in the middle of this thing, we had someone show up out here at the ranch, and we had to hit the stop button for the first time in 88 episodes. We've never done that, but I'm going to piece them together. So
it was not chicken murder related. Let's clear that up.
No, it was Jill's DoorDash. He showed up with a whole bunch of Dollar General stuff. So apparently she's having, Dollar General pizza tonight, and so no, it was somebody dropping some stuff off for the ranch. But we appreciate everyone that listens. Appreciate the show support. Hope to hear back. Hope to hear from you. Grouch and the Brainstorm. GrouchandBrainstorm.com is still an active website. Feel free to get on it. You can message us and get some topics you would like to hear or future things you want. We always digging for topics. We'd love to hear some.
I do want to throw one thing in real quick. I've been in this thing for 6 years. I'd never heard this before, and I saw it put up the other day, and one of our listeners, she does a sobriety deal on Instagram, and let me get to it where I can read her name. Her name is Monica. She put up something about if we buy any food that we buy in the grocery store, it lists the ingredients. It lists everything that's in that food. But with alcohol, there's no we don't know some of that stuff that's in there, and it never dawned on me. Like, I was like, I've never read a label on an alcohol, ingredient wise,
Bottle or can or
Yeah. And I went, that's so crazy. We put that, but literally poison to me in my body, and never looked to see what's in the thing, And anyway, she had a cool video on that, and I was like, that's crazy that we just never gave it a thought. So,
well, I mean, think about it. You got somebody sitting around, they got 5-6 years, and you're talking to them, and they'll be telling you, oh, I don't eat this, that, I don't eat anything that's processed. And I won't eat anything. Like 5 years ago, man, you were eating like TV dinners and drinking a gallon of vodka a day. So you're probably in good shape.
I worked in a treatment center, and it amazed me. I would do an intake on a dude. We did one, and a guy was sleeping behind an abandoned gas station that had been in the woods and been out there for like a few months. The first morning he gets up at treatment, walks into there, great ladies in there doing the cooking and all that stuff. And he goes, "Oh, I don't eat eggs.
Yeah.
I don't eat eggs." And I'm like, "What do you eat? Pine cones? Because you've been living in the woods for 3 months, dude." That's our attitude right there. Yeah.
Let's hope he
Sick.
stays sober and don't.
Who
have an
knows?
egg
Who knows?
But anyway,
All right.
so thanks everybody for being here. We have completed another episode. We've been at Rule 62 Studios right here in sunny, not so sunny, Bossier City, Louisiana, and we've been the Grouch and the Brainstorm.